Okay, live Q&A for October 6th, 2025. Just waiting for everybody to show up here. So we'll be just 1 second. In the meantime, I'll take this opportunity to show off a few things. I mean, if this is your first time here, what we do is we create tools for NinjaTrader, and we've got quite a few. I mean, this one here, we call it AutoBot. It is an automated tool. It does auto entries, so you can get in on a signal automatically. You just put the signal name in here, and then you turn the on buttons, and it'll automatically trade. So it's an auto trader, but it also does advanced order management. So you can do obviously lots of targets if you want. You can have different types of exit management if you want to exit on a signal. So for me, it's these red ones. Those are my exit signals for a long. Green is my exit signal for short. So that's what I would put the name of that signal in there to exit. You also have exit by ratio. So a ratio of your stop. Similar stuff for the break even. You can break even a certain amount of ticks. Or if you get a signal, you can set it to break even. Same thing for trailing. And you can stack these. You can use them together. We got custom buttons. You can do a lock-in button, which will allow you to lock in ticks. So maybe 5 ticks. If you want to move your stop closer by 5 ticks, the button will go on the chart. I can just show you real quick. I gotta put something in these fields because I can't trade with incorrect values. Do that real quick. So you got a lock-in button. So every time you click that, your stop's gonna get closer and closer to current price. Break-even button. I'm just going to share my screen here. How are you, fellas? Easel and Dean.
How you doing?
Oh, I'm pretty good.
Good, buddy. You?
I'm good. Yeah, I was just going through a couple things here, but that's because nobody was here yet. So, yeah, I was just showing the Autobot a couple little things. So, anyways, how's your guys' week going so far for trading?
Really good. Myself.
You pretty good?
I'm green, so I'm happy.
Cool, Dean.
Not
What?
much.
Hey, it's better than being red.
Yeah,
What have you guys been trading?
I've been doing MNQ.
MNQ. Okay, yeah.
Been doing
That's cool.
YM, micro
Uh,
YM.
yeah, doing your regular strategy, Easel, or
Yep.
just whatever you can do.
Yeah, my Ninja Trader eval should be race set here in a couple of days, so I'm really stoked about getting back onto the bot here.
Yeah,
Really disappointed that I fucking blew it, on a day I shouldn't have been trading. It really reminds you, like, when your emotions aren't in check, like, it's not the time. You need to be on the chart.
yeah, yeah. That's really a part of it. I should one day. Maybe I should go through a trade plan, or put up an example. Like I have a book here that I use for a trade plan, but also like different aspects of a trade plan. Like for me, the thing that helped me was just having a really structured approach in the beginning, at least. So it was structured trading, but it was also, like you're saying, different things. Like if it was an election week, I couldn't trade that whole week. If it was a Fed day, I couldn't trade that day. If there was news at 10, I couldn't trade, 15 minutes before 10, 15 minutes after 10. So there was like a lot of rules that got to the point where, or then if you're just not feeling right, You know, if you're on tilt or you've had 4 losing days in a row, then you're done for a week or a week and a half and things like that. You know, I should go through and make a little template of what I have for a trade plan and what I use because, yeah, it's something good to have. You're absolutely right. When your head's not in the right space, it really affects a lot of things. So, yeah, that's part of it. Can you guys see the stream?
Yes.
Sometimes it doesn't load. Dean can see it. Yeah, so, you know what I'll do? What should I do? I'll show some things. So, I was playing with I don't know if I have the template saved. Where's my workspace? If I switch workspaces, those will probably see what happens here. Should be a chart. Okay, so what I have here, September. So I was just playing with a strategy, just like a simple MACD crossover. I can't see the MACD. Oh, there it is. Yeah, a simple MACD crossover strategy I was doing. Just let me do the moving average as well. I think it's off. Oh no. I have it on. I just can't see it. Where the heck is it? Should be a 200 moving average there. 200 EMA. I have it set to visible. 10. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, I was on ADX. Yeah, I was just playing with that. Yeah, with these new updates in Generator, it's super cool. So there's new conditions called indicator and price. So indicator is pretty cool because I can pull up different indicators on the chart. So for example, let's do price. So I can say I can do condition type called price greater than 200 EMA, and then that only has one plot, so it's just EMA. So in this case, this condition means that price has to be above the 200 EMA, greater than, for this condition to be true for this signal. Or I could do less than. So in this case, price would have to be below the moving average for this condition to be true. And what's cool about this is you could put a bunch of things on here. You could put VWAP or anything on the chart, and you can just define, hey, price needs to be greater than or less than a certain thing. So it's makes it really customizable. There's also it'll recognize the MACD indicator. I think I just have to restart it here. Oh, you know what? What's going on? It's because it's not on this chart. Oh yeah, okay. These are actually connected to a different chart. That's why. Just put it on here real quick. Let's go to indicator. Right there, perfect. So we got MACD pops up because we got the MACD. It's just a normal MACD, and then I can do let's say you want to do like a crossover strategy, like a MACD cross. This is what I've been playing with. And so what I would do is you gotta know the names of the lines. So I go in here, I'm gonna go to MACD, and down at the bottom in the settings here, you can see there's what they call it the MACD line, the average line, and the difference. So you can see that the green or blue line is the MACD, the red one's the average, and the orange is what they call the difference. It's just a little thing in the middle there. So once you know the names, you can do, so I would do the MACD line. So let's say we're going to go for a long. So a traditional long in MACD is just when this line crosses above the red one. So the MACD crosses above the average line. So then I would do indicator MACD. Plot, I can choose any three of these plots. So I'm going to choose the MACD line because that's the green one. And I'm going to say greater than and I'm going to say plot greater than a plot, and the plot's going to be the average line. So in this instance, my entry trigger would be basically when the MACD line is greater than the plot average. So when the MACD is greater than the average line, and that's my final trigger to get into a trade. So it's cool because, you know, no longer do I have to make indicators that throw signals and stuff like that. You can just take any indicator you feel like, for the most part, that are built into NinjaTrader or third-party ones that some companies sell, and you can play around with it. I can add a couple more things. Let's say I want to do more of a reversal, so I'm only going to take the longs when it's below the zero line. I don't want to take longs when it's already above it, for instance. So I'd add another condition, and then I would do indicator, and I'm just going to choose one of these lines. We'll say like the MACD line. So I'll go to the MACD indicator. I'll choose the MACD line. And in this case, I'm going to say less than the value, because in the other one we put plot, but this time we're just going to put value and then 0. What that means is if you look here in the oscillator window, you know, it has plots here, negative 25, negative 20, negative 50, negative 10, 0, plus 5. You know, these lines can go anywhere. So if I say MACD line less than a value of 0, so here's the white line is the 0 line. So that means for this master signal to print, not only do we have to have this MACD line cross the average line, but this has to happen below the 0 line, not above. So it becomes more powerful, and I do actually intend on putting a little bit more comparison logic, but I'm just doing it little bits at a time. But then we could do another one. Let's do and again, because we want all these to be true at the same time. A very simple one. We're going to do price. So then now I'm going to say, okay, I want this to cross over the average line, and I want this to happen below the 0 line, but I only want it to happen when we're above the 200 moving average, because that's telling me we're in an uptrend in general, right? If we're below the 200 moving average, most people would say we're probably downtrending. So if I want to make sure this only gives me a signal when we're above the 200, I'll go down here. Condition type is going to be price. So in this case, we're doing a long, so I want it to be greater than the 200 EMA. And then plot, there's only one plot for the moving average. So in this case now, it'll give you a signal when the MACD line crosses the average, and when it happens below the 0, and when price is above the 200 exponential moving average. Now, I don't even know if I can find an example, because it doesn't happen too often. Here's probably one right here. Across below. Oh, no, because it has to be below. It's hard for it to go below. The strategy is kind of tight. So maybe here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so price is above the 200. It crossed below the 0 line. Okay, so this probably would have been a signal. With these conditions right here would have been a signal. So we're above the 200 moving average. We're below the 0 line. And the MACD crossed the average. So that would be a good one. And the last thing I'll just show you for this strategy, there's an AutoX indicator. If you never used it, it's not super common, but it basically just tells you, it's called AutoX is average directional movement. Now there's one called average directional movement plus and average directional movement minus. But what they've done is they've created one called AutoX, which combines them both. So it's more or less just a momentum indicator, to be honest. If it's above 25, generally that's considered higher momentum, and if it's below it, it's considered more of a choppy market. And actually, I do use AutoX in my Riptide signals. One of the conditions is for them to be above 25. But let's say I wanted to add it into this signal. So in this case, I would just add another condition, and then I would do indicator, and then I would just choose the AutoX from the list. plot. There's only one plot, ADX. And then I would say, okay, I want ADX greater than a value of 25. So in this case, all these other conditions have to be true, but now we're adding in one more where ADX has to be above 25. So I think I noticed this one we were just looking at. It would have been true before, but now that we've added that last condition for it to be over 25, it wouldn't work because ADX was 20 and a half when this MACD line crossed the average line there. So that would have filtered out that trade in that case. But yeah, I more or less just wanted to show you this version of Generator isn't out yet, but just to give you an idea how like functional it can be. So it's the goal is basically if you can like type your strategy in the chat, you should be able to, with a bit of practice, kind of be able to first of all make a signal for it, and then hopefully with a bit of practice you should be able to really build it yourself. That's the idea of this. I know things don't always, come out the way you plan them in your mind or whatever, or other people see things differently, but that's why I made this signal logic on the left, because for me, obviously, if we just had these settings, you could mess up a setting and it would be darn hard for you to go, it's just hard to read with all these stupid settings. But I go to the left and I have it written out in what's called rich text. So it takes all these settings, obviously. I think you guys know, but it takes all these settings and it writes them out in a way that you would write them down on a piece of paper if you were going to write your strategy down. So it says if the MACD indicator's MACD plot is greater than the average line and the MACD's indicator MACD plot is less than the zero line in the middle and the current price is greater than the 200 EMA and the ADX indicator's plot is greater than 25. So I'm hoping that makes it easy for people to read and set up. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to kind of show you guys that what this whole update was based around being able to read live indicator values. In the version that you guys have, it can't actually read like the MACD, or it doesn't know where these plots are. It wouldn't know that the MACD line is at 5.74 or the average line is at 4.63. So this was a huge update, and this is something I wanted to do from the very beginning. It was just super hard to do. So anyways, we ended up getting it figured out. I had to hound NinjaTrader a little bit and say, hey, help me. And they were a little bit reluctant, I know, because other developers may be using some of the same code, but in the end, we got it to work. So yeah, I'm just kind of running through this, trying to make that work, and then I'll go to a couple guys like Easel and Slothfather. We'll see if there's anything I need to add to this to make their strategies work. But yeah, I mean, that's just a little run through of that. So sneak peek for you guys.
Sweet. Thank you.
Yeah,
What do you think?
Looking forward to it.
I know it might be a lot in the beginning, but does it seem like it's something that I want people to be able to learn how to use it? I know it's, especially if you're new to NinjaTrader, it might be a little hard, but hopefully you guys can see some potential of being able to learn how to use it in a somewhat easy fashion. So that's the goal. Anyways, with that.
No, it looks great.
Yeah, okay, cool. And then I'll do other things. So now that I can read indicator values, I can use that same logic, and I can go over to AutoBot, and what I would do is, instead of having a hard stop, or maybe we might still have a hard stop, what we'll do is we'll have an enable exit management, and then right now we have what's called signal and ratio. You guys probably know signal is if you get a signal on your chart, you can use that to exit your trade. Or if you get to a certain ratio of your stop, you can use it to exit your trade as well. But there'll be another one called indicator. So the idea is I kind of take similar logic where I go to this list, and you could be able to choose, you could say, hey, the 200 EMA. And you could use the 200 EMA as your stop. And the EMA, your stop will trail on that EMA, or some people use something called super trend. It's like an average true range indicator, and that's really popular to put stops, especially for algos and stuff. So now this logic will lead into ways where you can use indicators as a stop. So I know it's popular for good reason. Like even a simple strategy where you have moving average crosses. See, so this is the 200. You might have some guys might have a 100, a 50, and a 20. So when all three of them cross, then they'll get in long. Or when it closes above the 200, they'll get in long, but then they'll use the 20 moving average as their stop. So, and just to keep their stop tight. So it would be good to have that in AutoBot. And I think people could get really creative with it. And then, one of the last updates for AutoBot is previous candle. So for me especially, when I'm trading, an important thing for me is to recognize the previous candles and put my stop there, especially for Heikin-Ashi, which I know Dean isn't a super fan of, but
since you put that video out, I've become a fan.
Did you read? You watched that?
Oh yeah, I watched it
Okay.
a couple times. And that really it helps a lot. It makes a lot more sense than the way TradingView does it.
Yes. And did you compare the Heikin-Ashi from TradingView and NinjaTrader side by side?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's why it's usable. I do have I have an indicator for NinjaTrader that basically makes them like TradingView. So, but nothing's right except for the only thing that's not right is the open. So I'm glad you watched that.
The close is what I'm thrilled about. Is because I like that. That's what.
Yeah. Well, I
Where
mean,
it closes. When I'm going back and just doing, like back testing and looking at it, it's good to know where it actually closed at.
yeah.
And that does that, so that's nice.
Yeah, it closed here, so then you know that the next candle technically opened basically in the same spot, which is, so that's, I always liked Heikin-Ashi, but I'm also kind of a price action guy too, and I think you are, and I think that's why you didn't really prefer Heikin-Ashi at first, is because it ruins all your price action. You're basically looking at a moving average of candles that aren't real in some cases. So.
And it's all about to me where it closes at, knowing where it closed, and that kind of stuff. So that's
but for me, so and I'll get into this more. Like I said, once I get this development over, I got a cool video coming out here soon. I want to get into teaching a little bit more about how I do things, and I want to get back to actually trading myself. But for instance, let's say I'm using my Riptide indicator, and let's say I get a bearish shift here on this candle. Okay, I would get into the trade, but for me, where I put my stop is basically behind plus a couple ticks of the last candle. And then we'll say we got in on the close of this candle, so we know it would be there. And then I do basically sometimes a little less than 1-to-1, but something like that. So then my bet is basically one candle and a couple ticks back. And the reason I do that is just because it's easy for me to scroll back on the chart and look at that. First of all, I could always just, I see, okay, there's the shift signal. There's one candle back. Did it wick? Because it's real wicks too on Heikin-Ashi. Did it wick back behind that? And it's easy for me to just kind of back test quick if I'm, reviewing the week or whatever. But also, what's kind of a little bit more that people don't notice is these open at the average of the last candle. So in a market where it's going to move or it's trending, generally, because this is, what I mean, a couple ticks past the last candle, it's not a random spot, even though it's Heikin-Ashi, because, like I said, it's the average of the previous candle. So you're betting that in a strong market, it's not going to break the average of the previous candle. And it doesn't. Like you can see this here, it didn't wick back at all, nor did it break the average. So this candle's an average, this candle is an average of this candle. This candle's open is an average of that one. So there is a bit of merit to it. It's not just kind of a random stop. You're betting on averages. And if it's going to trend, generally it's not going to break that average. So it is kind of a good strategic spot, I would say, to put a stop, and that's what I like to do. So that's kind of how I use Heiken Ashi to determine my stop. But at this moment, funny enough, AutoBot doesn't have that functionality. I would love to have not a stop with ticks and just change this to previous candle, or previous candle plus, or previous 2 candles back, 3 candles back. For me, it would be previous candle plus like 4 ticks on the NQ, or previous candle plus 1 tick on the ES, or plus 2 ticks on the YM or RTY. So we will have that functionality before the next version's put out, and that's not too hard to do. But yeah, so I mean, that's how I use it, and that's something that I need in AutoBot to trade the way I trade. So yeah, so I do. Heiken Ashi is not bad. So then, have you guys looked into the other I do have 2 candle types. I got gamma bars. I'm sure maybe you guys have seen those. They're like a Renko style bar. And then I have Vega bars. Let's just go to data series. And hold on. Yeah, I'm going to make it more robust. If I change the data series, it might glitch out these strategies. So I will fix that. So I got one that I made called Vega bars, okay? Have you guys used them at all? Probably not.
I did just a little bit in the beginning.
Yeah, a little bit.
No, I haven't. I haven't done anything with it.
Okay. So I'm not surprised. They're a little bit. So I made these custom. And what they are is just an idea I had for a long time, and eventually I got around to doing it. So they're like Heiken Ashi. Okay. So let's just make the bars a little wider. Well, one more. This is how you change. If you ever get your bars and they're always mushed together or something, you just go up here and you can just make them how you want. So they're similar to Heiken Ashi in a way where the open is always the average of the previous candle. So they do have a Heiken Ashi smoothing to them. But the difference is Heiken Ashi, the normal one, is time-based, right? So you would have, if you go to Heiken Ashi, you would have a 1 minute, a 2 minute, a 3 minute, 4 minute. So if you had a 1 minute Heiken Ashi, I don't have to say this, but this candle would represent 1 minute of time, and then it would end, and then the next candle would start, and each candle represents 1 minute of time. But in this case, instead of representing a minute of time, what these do is they represent volume. So 200 is a 200 volume. So, a volume of 200 has to go through the market, and once it does, a new candle forms. But I went kind of a step further, and I used delta volume instead of just regular volume. So if you guys aren't familiar with delta volume, it's more, there's like neutral volume, which is trades that happen in between the bid and the ask. And it doesn't really push the market. It's kind of irrelevant. Like if all the action happened at the bid and the ask or within it, the market wouldn't go anywhere. You need pressure. You need either, you need people to buy above the bid, below the bid or above the ask for the market to move. That's what moves markets. That's what pressure. That's where the pressure comes from. So delta just means pressure. So if you have positive delta, that means you have upward aggression, price aggression. If you have negative delta, you have negative price aggression. And are you guys familiar with this much?
No, not myself.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay, so just let me go. This is good then. So let me go through this. So there's an indicator called order flow cumulative delta. So this represents exactly what I'm talking about. And it just plots it at the bottom. But I'm going to move. I'm just going to get rid of that MACD now. So this represents cumulative delta. And what it is, it's just the difference between the buy pressure, so stuff that happened above the ask and stuff that happens below the bid. So this is what it tells you. So if I put my crosshair, let's say here, this candle closed for the day at well, we're at a positive. So the whole day is positive on pressure. You see, this is completely neutral. So 2,245 contracts net buy pressure is where we're at right here, where my crosshairs are. So up until this point in the day, on this chart, it's 8:30 in the morning. I don't know what day it is, but it doesn't matter. Up until 8:30 in the morning, there was 2,297 more positive buying pressure transactions in the market than there were negative. So, and then the market went up. And you can see how my candles somewhat match the cumulative delta, because this is what I'm measuring. I'm measuring buy pressure, and I'm comparing it to the sell pressure, and whatever the difference is, that's what it comes out to. So, for example, let's say one of these candles opened. Let's say this candle here. It opened, and we got 100 buy pressure, or 100 positive delta. You know, it still moves with price, but it's just this delta volume is just a matter of when it's going to print another bar. So it kind of gets you at a chop. So if it's really choppy, there's a bit of buy, bit of sell, bit of buy, bit of sell. You're just going to have one candle, and that candle could be there for an hour if you have this high enough, or it's at night. So it kind of gets you at a chop. Or time based, it would kind of go up a little, down a little, up a little, down a little, up a little. If it does that with Vega bars, it just stays in one spot, because it has to reach a net 200 positive delta or a net negative 200 delta. So if we got, say, 100 positive delta in this candle, and then we got a net 200 delta right after it, then we would be, if we got a negative 200 delta, we would be at a net negative 100 delta. And it would just go, up 200, down 200, up a 50, down 50, until eventually, I shouldn't use 200 because I have it set to 200. But eventually, once we either hit a net 200 positive delta or a net 200 negative delta, once we hit that point, then a new bar is going to print. So, like I said, the reason it's good is because when you're in a market that's, goes up a little, down a little, up a little, down a little, you're not going to get new candles. So, that's how Vega bars work, and they tend to work pretty good with Riptide, but I just created these a couple months ago, and I haven't had any time to trade live to test them. But from what I saw, because Hykenax, she does work better with Riptide with the shift signals, these tend to work pretty good as well. But I mean, that's what it is. So it's just, instead of time for each candle, it's volume, and not just all volume, just pressurized volume. So that's what the Vega bars are, and I don't know, keep them up on a side chart, see what happens. So 200 is like, if you want to know settings, it's volume based, right? So if you know your instruments, ES is one of the thickest traded instruments out there. So at 200 on ES, it ain't shit. I guess you could say. You would probably want to start maybe at around 500, because there's a lot of volume going through on ES. NQ is a little thinner. YM, you just got to get to your settings. But as far as NQ goes, this is probably like a 5-minute chart, if you were to kind of compare it that way. 200 on NQ is maybe like a 5-minute chart. If you did a 500, it might be like, let's have a look. 500 might be like a 10 or 15-minute candles kind of thing. All I do is I just change it. I put 50. That's all I try to do. 500. All I do is I look at it. So, okay, well, where's the most recent day? So today, and I say, okay, well, I got basically, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 30 candles for the day. So that's probably like 15-minute candles. So, yeah, I mean, they could be good for longer trends as well. And once candles start printing, then we're actually getting some pressure. Yeah, so that's what those are. And then since we're on it, I have the gamma bars. sure you guys have seen. They're like a Renko. Now, have you guys looked at Renko very much?
I haven't. I've seen, people talk about it on YouTube, but I've never messed with it.
Haven't either.
No. Okay. Well, if you guys want to learn about it, because I kind of love this stuff. I guess I geek out on this kind of stuff. Renko is what's called a non-time-based chart, or non-time-based candle. So just like my Vega bars, it doesn't matter if an hour goes by or 1 second goes by. It's not looking at that. So this is just a traditional Renko. I didn't invent these. These are just something that people use. And why do the people use them? Well, they use them because they're the raw price action. Okay, this is it. It makes a candle based on the movement of price. Now, I'll kind of explain it a little better in a second, but let's just try and go through an example real quick. So let's just find a vertical line, F7. Okay, we're going to go there, and then I'm going to find F7. There. Okay, this is actually a decent example. So if you look at my crosshairs and look at the bottom, you can see the time is 1909. And let's go 1909 in a couple seconds, and then 1910. So this is 1 minute. If you were on a minute candle, you would just see one candle. But in this case, with the settings that they're on right now, this is what's happening in a whole minute. So if you were to pretend like this was just a normal minute candle, you would have started this 9 minute at around here, and it would have went up and it would have been closed, and you would have ended about right here. So it would have been a doji, and you would have had a high wick and a low wick. So if you go to a regular candlestick chart, you're going to see a doji at this date at this time. But what Renko allows you to do, it allows you to see each price movement. So what constitutes a new candle? A new candle will form on the break of the previous candle, and they have a little bit of a wick. There's a little bit of a threshold that it needs to do that, and that's what you do. You set the threshold. So in this case, it's a Ninja Renko 8 and 4. So the 8 is going to represent the size of the body, and the 4 is going to represent how much past the body it has to go to create a new candle. Yeah, so that's 8 ticks, and then this one should be 4 ticks beyond the last one. So 22, and then 23. So all it does is if price goes 4 ticks above the last candle, boom, it's gonna give you a new candle. If it goes 4 ticks again, boom, it's gonna give you another one. Same thing to the downside, except for in this case it went down a little bit, but it was only 1, 2, 3. So it only broke the last candle by 3 ticks, not 4. And then it went up to break the high by 4. So that's why there's a wick there. Actually, probably only 2. 1, 2, yeah, from the body. So basically, all it does is if it breaks the high last candle, creates a new one. And these can happen, at the market open or times of when the market's really bullish. Something like this could happen in less than a second. It could be an eighth of a second. You could see moves when it's news and stuff. You could see all of this in a quarter of a second sometimes, depending on the settings. So what it is, it's a raw price action, like really, really raw. And it's good for like, if you want to draw trend lines and stuff, you can see all the little micro pivots in the market. Like you're not missing anything within this whole minute. In this example, there was 2 pivots, right? But, yeah, so what it does is it just gives you like a really granular view of price action. It gives you every single pivot. It went up, it went down. It's almost like a line chart. If you were to go on TradingView or something, or even on here, and you just set it up as a line, it just follows price exactly, basically, for the most part. So these are like what you call a price action. Like it's raw price action. So that's what Renko is. It's popular for like bots and stuff like that. You can do breaks. I don't know. You like if you were to do like a 3-touch trend line kind of thing. You know, you might go. Oh, do I have trend line? I guess I'm not using the right hotkey here. Now, extended line. So yeah, you could maybe do like a 3-touch trend line, and you could set this up for like a bot kind of thing. Is what you would set it up for, and you know, you would just do like it once you get 1, 2, 3 touches, and once it breaks, then you get in, and then your stop would go at the most recent pivot, and then whatever you would get halfway, you would lock it in, and then just kind of scalp it. That's how a bot might trade this. It's by using trend line breaks, 3-touch trend line breaks, something like that. So it's really good for seeing price action. You can kind of grab a little bit bigger pivots, see bigger. In this case, you got a couple bigger ones. So you got 1 there, 2. You know, you probably would have had a fake out here because that was kind of a big pivot. All right, that would have been maybe a loss if you're just doing a basic trend line thing. And then there it goes. Obviously, you wouldn't just trade it like this by itself. You'd be somewhere. You would be way above VWAP or way below or something else. You would have to have other, you know, you'd have to be somewhere on the chart for this to be valid. But that would be kind of the entry condition. So that's all it is. It's just what you would call a non-time based, like a raw price action kind of thing, and you get to see every little pivot, kind of. You can set it up so like an 8 and a 4 is pretty small, brick size of 8. So that's just 2 points. So on the NQ, so let's do like, you know, you could do a much bigger one. So what's like 20 is 5 points, right? So 20 is the size of each bar. And then we'll say, you know, we need, I don't know, 3 points. 3 points for it to make a new bar. So again, it still gives you the price action. It's just, you're not going to see a move like that in 1 second. It'll take a couple minutes. And that's all it is. So, and the reason I kind of had to explain that is because my gamma bars are very similar to Renko. If I can find them here. I don't want to use a setting of 10 though. Probably 35 at least on NQ. They're very similar to Renko in the fact that they don't, they're not time based. Let me thin these out so I can see them. They're not time based, but instead of using price, they use an amount of ticks that go through the market. So tick is just, it'll count each and every order. So if I bring up like a basic time and sales, now the market's pretty thin, so we're not going to get much. I just need the December. So a basic time and sales. So each of these is a tick that goes through the market. So there's 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick, 4 tick, 5 tick. And I just have it set up for delta. I could add more. I just got to go to properties. Do the bid and the ask as well. Yeah, so each of these is a tick that goes through the market. So instead of just measuring a break, it takes into account ticks as well. So this one's kind of a little bit harder to explain, but the thing about it is it's very similar to Renko. It's just a little different. So just understanding that is kind of enough. And then what you do is if you wanted to use them, you would look at them and see, you know, put your indicators on them or whatever ones you want to use and see if it's any use to you or not. May or may not be. This is good for scalping. Like I said, it's good for drawing pivots, stuff like that. If I do...
What value did you say you'd recommend?
Say it again?
I'm sorry, what value did you recommend, like for the bars? Is it 20 for the period setting?
Yeah, for NQ to start, about 30.
30.
It was a good start. 30 to 50 is kind of like a day trader value. And then that's for NQ, but for like YM, you might do a 10, 12, 15. And then for ES, I think it's probably around there, like a 5 or 6, a little bit lower. Just because there's a lot of movement and a lot of ticks that go through the market in NQ. It's mostly the movement.
I'm just glancing at this morning's with the
Yeah.
gamma bars, looking at it and seeing what it
Yeah.
looked like on it.
50 bar. Yeah, so I put it up. I have it on a 50 right now. And yeah, so if, sometimes adding trend lines is a really good way to confirm entries. And the reason why I really like trend lines is if you draw them properly, that's going to keep you out of chop too. You have to draw them on significant pivots. So using gamma bars is a good way to find significant pivots in the market. And if you take solid ones, and I wouldn't, you could, but I'm not saying that to trade the trend line break. I'm just saying you're looking at everything else and you like it, and all of a sudden you have a nice trend line with 3 good clear pivots, and it's looking to break that line at the same time all your other stuff is maybe giving you a trade. It's just a good, it's a good confirmation. It's what I like it for. And that's something I've added recently. Before I didn't trade as much. But, here's a good example. It's pretty close to a trend line. And if I was looking at, okay, this day, we just basically went up all day. Up, 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 up. We're getting into the end of the day right before market close. And it broke down a little bit if I had other confluence. So it's just a good way to find raw price action. So those are that. The Vega bars. I'd love for somebody to find something cool on them. I want to get back to trading. I'm tired of coding. I'm tired of making this stuff. I like it. I'm going to use the tools. That's part of the reason why I'm making it. But I want to get into really testing some of this stuff and having fun with some back tests. So, so that's what gamma bars are, and I'm happy that you guys didn't really use them or didn't really know what they were, because we were able to make a little bit of use out of this session, kind of showing you some of that stuff. You guys never used Delta, which is kind of cool because I really like Delta. They also
Like
have
Jet's Delta signal indicator.
Pardon?
He's got, I like Jet's Delta signal indicator.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good, and that's what it is. Now it's what it is it's volume, but it's pressure. I call it pressurized volume. So it's not just volume that happens neutrally; it happens aggressive. It's aggressive sales or aggressive, and it could be stop orders, could be take profit orders. Who knows? But it's usually, that's what it is. Like if you see the market snap down real quick, you're gonna have a high negative delta. Generally, that's going to be a bunch of stop orders getting hit. So that's why you're getting it, because it's just market order, market order, market order, market order, and they'll take whatever price they can get because it's a stop order. So there's another indicator called order flow trade detector. So what it does is it's delta related again, and it's something that I use to find trapped buyers and trapped sellers. I won't go into that today, but let's do about we'll go low, about 25 should be good. So 25, oh no, that's the size. So 100 size. Minimum volume.
I appreciate the bounce though. I wanted to say I appreciate spending the time on this.
Mm-hmm. What did you say, Dean, there?
I'm sorry. I was wondering, do they, like these gamma bars, do they back test well?
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, you can run them in replay and everything like that. They honestly, sometimes the gamma bars glitch out, but the Vega bars are definitely a lot better if that's what you mean. But
Yeah, just wondered if it made.
yeah, sometimes you get switching charts in the
Anything
gamma
I've
bars.
heard people say Hakanashi doesn't necessarily back test really well or
Oh,
something. I don't know if
oh,
that's true. That's people.
yeah, I know what you're saying. So in TradingView, they used to not allow Heiken-Ashi to back test. They wouldn't allow you to do it. And I guess Jat told me not too long ago they started allowing users to back test with Heiken-Ashi. So that's never been a rule in trading in NinjaTrader. That's just something that would never happen in NinjaTrader. They don't restrict their users from doing anything. But yeah, I mean they back test exactly. Just if you've done market replay in NinjaTrader, it's the same as anything else. I think TradingView, well, I don't know, they kind of try to protect people too. So what would happen is you would get some guru that back tests on Heiken-Ashi, and they would say, hey, look, I got, here's the close, here's the entry. Well, people that don't understand that Heiken-Ashi is not real, especially on TradingView, could easily be swindled, I guess you could say. And I think that's kind of why they did it. But
About that.
yeah. But anyways, could be for other reasons too. I don't know. But anyways, yeah. As far as NinjaTrader goes, Heiken-Ashi, Vega bars, anything, it just replay. It's just the same as live market. The only thing at replay is it's about 1 second in between bar updates. So every 1 second, your bar will change on the chart. It'll read every tick in between that 1 second, but you're only going to see it move. So 1 Mississippi, it moves. 1 Mississippi, and it moves. But you still get all the delta. If you were to pull up a time in sales, like I just had up, and you were in market replay, you would be able to see that. Every order, how much the order was. So it does, in NinjaTrader, it does backtest very well. Let me just add this here. Okay, so I just added what's called order flow trade detector. So keeping on the topic of delta, these bubbles that come on the chart show you the delta. I have it set to show up at 25, at a 20, either, if that bar has a net positive 25 or net negative 25, the bubble's going to start small. And as it grows, 30, 35, 40, the bubble gets bigger and bigger. So you can see how big this bubble is. If I hover over it, it'll say S for sell, 507. So that means on that bar, there was 507 contracts sold below the bid. So that's why you get that big bubble there, the big red one. And then the big blue one, or blue ones are, you can see here, the buy was 47 pressure and the overall volume was 47. So there was no other volume on this bar except for a buy pressure of 47 contracts. Now, sometimes they are a little weird on non-time based bars like Gamma bars or Renko bars, because these bars can, like I said, you can get 10 bars in a second. So sometimes this delta stuff or volume doesn't read well. But the idea is there. So just back on, the delta idea and the selling pressure, you could see here. There was a big sell pressure at the bottom and then price come up. This is what I would call, not in this instance, but the idea is that this is what I would call trap sellers. So you had I guess I'm getting into it now. So you had a little bit of a level here, or you call it maybe a liquidity grab for, I'm sure you've heard that. So what we did is we dropped below that, but then also we got this big volume bubble. So that's confirming that there's volume. And because it's negative, because it's red, what you would call it trapped sellers. So there was a bunch of sellers here. Either this is, the thing with delta is you don't know if it stops or if you don't know it's people buying short. You don't know that, but you just kind of take it for what it is. And in this case, this setup is called trap sellers. So when you've broken below level and you have a huge amount of volume and it starts to go the opposite way, then this is what you would call absorption. And then because it went the other way, now these sellers are trapped here. Whoever went short, some of them are short, we don't know how many, but whoever went short there is going to have to get out of their trade. So you would get to the setup. This is just like a general theory, like, it's not anybody's strategy or mine or anything. This is just, if you go on YouTube and you type in trap sellers or buyers, you get kind of the same thing I'm telling you here. So you would get to maybe here. This would probably be more of a time-based or footprint chart kind of strategy. But yeah, you would get to here and you would say, okay, I want to get in long here because we have a bunch of trapped sellers. They tried to push it down. Either it was just a stop grab or there's a bunch of sellers that are going to have to, get out. And they're probably going to have their stop up at this pivot or somewhere here. So you would get in here, and you would anticipate that you're at least going to come to the next recent pivot and grab those stops from all these shorts. And then in this case, you do. You grab that. You don't come back to highs, but you at least grab these shorts that were sitting on these pivots because a lot of algos, they do that, right? They trail the last candle or the last pivot. So this is how you use delta bubbles as a way to find trapped sellers or trapped buyers. It breaks a level, huge volume, rejection, and that's, not necessarily the trade. It's like anything. It could be a part of a trade, and that's why I leave these bubbles on there. I don't trade that, but let's say I get to here, and we're bullish on the day, and I get I'm using my riptide, and I get a bullish shift signal right here, and I look back and I say, okay, we've had a liquidity grab, we've had trapped sellers. I add that in. I say, okay, I'll turn the bottom. I say, I really want this trend shift signal because I see this huge volume and a rejection. So it's just one piece of the pie, I guess you could say, and that's why I leave it on my charts when I'm trading. So, so I guess we were on a Delta theme today, which is kind of cool because I love Delta. So, I don't know. Hopefully you learned something. You have any questions about like the bot or anything like that?
Well, just to let you know, I run it every day for about 2 hours. I sometimes let it run more, but I seriously run and pay attention to it for about 2 hours. It usually gives me an error about twice a day. I don't know if you're aware of that, just in
Okay.
case.
And is it, do you remember what it says, or could you take a screenshot on it?
Well, maybe I shouldn't say error. It takes a wrong trade. It'll take a
Okay.
trade, and after what I use the bullish background switch and the bearish background switch. And
Yep.
sometimes, like, I can send you a picture of the one of them today if you need to. But it's just basically in the middle of maybe an uptrend. It'll all of a sudden it'll take a trade.
And there wasn't a recent signal?
Um, no,
Okay. Okay.
if
So,
it's say it's in the middle of a green, it's an uptrend and everything's green, everything's going along. It took one when it got the bullish background switch, but then all of a sudden in the middle then not very often. It's probably about twice a day, sometimes only once, but it'll just pop up and take a trade, and
it'll,
I let it run and stuff. But
what happens? Does it get in short while you're in that trade, or does it just kind of close out and cause an error?
it doesn't give me an error. I've said that wrong. I shouldn't said use the word error. I never get an error. It just takes the trade. It all of a sudden it generates a trade and it starts tracking it, and it sets up my same ATM strategy that it
Yeah.
uses through the AutoBot. It
Okay.
sets that up, everything correctly. It's just why all of a sudden did it take it in the middle of it? It's
Okay.
been 10 bars, 5 bars since we got the bullish background switch. And like I say,
Yeah.
it'll take the first bullish background switch, but then it just 5, 6, 10 bars, 20 bars later, and all of a sudden it'll pop up another one.
Okay. Yeah. That's something I am updating in the bot is sometimes that happens. I've never had that happen, but, things act a little different on different computers and different stuff like that. So it's something that I can look into. Does it go the right direction? Like if it, say the bullish switch was 10 candles ago, will it still be a long trade or would it be a short? Or maybe it's, who knows?
Yeah, I think it always goes with it, but I'm not sure. I can't say that 100%. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want me to track the rest of it, I'll keep track of what happens with it.
The only thing is, and I'm gonna look at something here because there's a chance that it's actually not the bot. Could be a chance it's the behavior of the indicator. So
Well, I
this,
have noticed that with the Riptide, sometimes when when it does the background switch, it'll switch before the color switches. That makes sense. Then it goes back and corrects the color.
Yeah.
Like say it's green, those bullish background switch will pop up, but it's still red. And then all of a sudden, after the candle or during the candle, then it'll switch to green. But it's not a big. It's never been
Yeah.
never led to me losing a trade or whatnot.
Yeah.
Anything like that.
I think, yeah. Honestly, I think it's more of a. I think it's more likely that it's Riptide than it is the bot, and the reason why is this might be new, especially if you're coming. Are you coming from TradingView for the most part?
Oh yeah, trading.
Yeah.
I've had Top Step accounts and been doing Top Step X, but Trading View mostly.
Okay. So and it kind of makes. I'm going to show you something, and I guess it kind of makes sense once you think about it. So we have this thing in the settings here. It's called Calculate, and there's 3 choices. It's called on bar close, on each tick, or on price change. So, and this is in every single indicator, and some of them are defaulted differently. So if you were to have, let's say I just had a moving average here in the settings, you would see the moving average on the chart, of course. And if I had set it, and if it was set to on bar close, that moving average would find a value at the start of the bar, and that moving average wouldn't change on your chart at all until the bar closed, and then it would recalculate, and then it would move. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that makes.
yeah. So, but what you can do, and this is just all up to you, and well, some indicators need them different. But so if I were to change it from on bar close now, same example, if I go to on price change, now instead of that moving average only updating when a new bar starts, now it updates every time the price changes. So if it goes up a tick or down a tick, it's going to recalculate the moving average. So you're going to see it move mid-bar all the time. It's going to be moving up and down with the new calculation, right? And then you have another one which is called on each tick, which is more granular. So even if, like for example, right now there's orders going through the market, but maybe the candle isn't moving because it's just happening without delta. It's just happening on the ask or the bid. It'll still calculate those contracts going through the market even though price didn't change. So not on price change, but on each tick. So there's certain indicators like Riptide, because it reads delta and it reads ADX and it reads a lot of different things. It needs to know all these calculations on each and every single tick. So I have it set to each tick. And it kind of has to be, well, it works best, but the only thing I'm thinking, Dean, is that maybe for a split second, maybe you don't even see it, but because it happens on each tick, maybe the background does turn red for a second, and then back to green. Or maybe it does switch mid-bar because it can calculate. And, maybe you don't see it, or maybe it's such a quick flash that it just goes red and green real quick. So I'm wondering if that's part of the issue as well.
Yeah, because I've got it in AutoBot to, not to do anything until the candle closes. So.
Okay. Oh, you got the bot set to that?
Yeah, set the candle closes.
Yeah. So that's a little bit different than this. That just means it's going to wait to take. It'll still remember. Like if the trade's set up mid-bar, it's just going to remember until the bar closes and then take the trade. So on the bot, that's not really the same thing. It's not calculating. It's just waiting to click the button. Essentially, if you were to tell your buddy like, hey, once that candle closes, click the button. That's kind of the same thing. This is calculating the math of the indicator on each tick. So I wonder, if it happens every day, would you maybe just run it one day?
I don't know if that happens. The color changes. I don't know if that happens every day, but I have seen that.
Yeah.
I haven't that I've seen. But I wouldn't get too worried about that because that's not a big deal really. It's more the what I call a false signal. That's the big deal. I couldn't walk away. I don't feel comfortable walking away from it, but it's not. I'm gonna be here anyway.
Yeah. But I gotta.
I'm not gonna walk.
Yeah, I need to make it better though. There's to be other people that do want that. So, I don't know if you could run one on a sim account and just do it on set Riptide to on bar close instead. And I'll do some testing too for the background, and I'll see I'll see if I can. But I'm also going to do. I do need to do a couple of updates in AutoBot related to reliability. I'm just going to put some like extra safety nets in there, I guess you could say. So that's what we'll do. But okay, well, it's been about an hour. I'm sure I talked your guys' head off. Easel left, but he probably because we were talking, so he didn't say nothing. But
Well, I appreciate your time
yeah.
greatly. Thank you.
Hey, yeah, I appreciate you showing up. Gives me somebody to talk to rather than myself. So maybe one day we'll be big enough and there'll be a bunch of people here, and maybe there'll be too many questions and I won't like it.
There you go.
Okay.
Careful what you wish for, right?
Yeah. Okay. Hey, it's good having you around, Dean. I appreciate seeing you
All right.
around and hanging around.
No problem. Thank you all.
Yeah. Okay. Take care.
All right. Talk to you later.